This topic is going to be your interest formula. Do you remember we talked about the interest formula earlier in the year? So we're going to revisit it. You don't have to if you don't want to, because I'm going to remind you the way I want you to calculate it if you choose to. There's no doubt in my mind that using interest equals principal times rate times time will work, but I like the T-bar. And my T-bar will look like this. Annualized interest over principal times rate. The interest that we use in this class will be simple annual interest, and this is the formula. Now, let me remind you why that was important earlier in this class. Do you remember earlier in this class, we were trying to calculate interim interest, and we had to calculate per day? So what I told you is if you had a loan amount, principal just simply equals loan amount, whatever your principal balance is at any time. So principal is loan amount. I am making this up. I'm going to do the number 120,000, just simply because the math is easy. At an interest rate of 6%, again, given, I'm just giving you these numbers. 120,000 times 6%, if my math is correct, that's 7,200. Okay, now, let me remind you why this was important, and you have this exact same one in your notes because it's the example I used at the time we went over it earlier. But let me remind you, if you're trying to figure out how much daily interest is, you're going to divide that number right there by what? 360. When we were doing interim interest, we had to solve for daily interest, so you divide it by 360. We're getting ready to do a problem that's going to involve us having to calculate monthly interest, okay? So if you do the exact same formula, but you know that the number you're looking for is monthly interest, what are you going to divide that number by? By 12. Yeah, it's the exact same formula. If you need daily, 360. If you need monthly, divide it by 12. Okay? And you would obviously see that what that means is you paid $600 in that particular month of $120,000 at 6%. Now, why am I telling you this? It's going to be very relevant to the next question that we talk about. So please write in your notes that the next topic, the next competency, is going to be your balance, your loan balance, after making a monthly payment. Your loan balance after making a monthly payment. Okay. Completely making these numbers up, and I am going to use 200,000 again because I have the numbers memorized for 200,000. But here's the situation. You have a loan of $200,000. That loan amount. Your interest rate is 6%, 30 years. And for those of you using the amortization chart, the reason I chose 6% is if you look at 6%, you'll see that the mortgage factor for 6% just happens to be 6. And so it's easy for me to remember. So I'm going to put down here that your mortgage factor equals $6 per 1,000 borrowed. So now, tell me what your monthly payment is going to be on this loan. Actually, don't tell me. Let me walk you through it. Okay, just to save us a little bit of time. 200,000 divided by what? 1,000 equals 200. 200 times a mortgage factor of 6. Now tell me what your monthly mortgage payment is going to be. $1,200. It would be 200 times 6. So your monthly P&I is going to be $1,200. Are you okay right now with where those numbers come from? Okay. Now we can actually get to the competency that's relevant. What we're trying to find out now is after you make a monthly payment. Now, listen, this is actually going to hurt your feelings to start with. Because what we're going to show you is you owe someone $200,000. You owe the bank $200,000. You make a payment of $1,200. This question is going to be, how much do you still owe after having your monthly payment? Well, here's the deal. What we're asking is how much of $1,200 went to pay the P. Went to pay what? The principal. I don't really have a short, pithy formula for determining principal, but don't I have a great formula for determining how much interest you pay in a month? Yeah. So what I'm going to do, for simplicity's sake, I'm going to use that interest formula. Do you remember that interest formula looks something like this for this problem? Matter of fact, it's the exact one we just did. No, it's not. I'm sorry. 200,000 times 6%. You with me so far? Principal times rate will equal 12,000. So far, so good? Okay. Now remember what goes at the top. Annualized interest. So I pay 12,000 over the course of a month. Over the course of a year. I need to break it down to monthly, so I'm going to divide it by what? I'm going to divide it by 12. So 12,000 divided by 12 equals 1,000. Now this is like Jeopardy. What is 1,000 the answer to? What question is 1,000 the answer to? How much interest was paid this month? You made a $1,200 payment. 1,000 of it went towards interest. Where'd the rest of it go? So 1,200 minus 1,000 equals 200. So what's your balance after a monthly payment? You started off at 200,000. You paid down 200. Minus 200 equals $199,800. You made a $1,200 payment. Only 200 of it went to paying off your loan. If you ever wonder why banks build large monuments to themselves, this is it. And also, I want you to think about this for just a second. Go talk to a first-time home buyer who's getting ready to be a first-time home seller and ask him this question. Hey, listen, I want to talk to you about how much you're going to net when you sell this house. And you say, okay, well, at the time we bought the house, we bought it for $200. We've been paying on that $200,000 loan for about 2 years at $1,200. We've probably paid down about $24,000. No, they paid that. You may have paid down $4,000, but you haven't paid down $24,000. Okay? Because everybody does not understand this. All right? That's the concept right there, and that's the test question actually at the end of the day. This is all about steps. You do understand that, right? So here's what I'm going to suggest to you. You make sure you have these steps right. We're going to do it one more time to make sure you have these steps right. You clearly will have 2 or 3 of these for homework as well. And you will find that the math is not extraordinarily complicated once you remember that interest formula, but just remembering the steps. You started here, you made this payment. How much went to interest? This went to principal. Subtract that principal from your starting principal, and that's how much you owe after one monthly payment. Okay? RC, would you like to know how much you owe after 2 monthly payments? Sure. Sure. If I were to ask you the question, how much do you owe after your second monthly payment? Let's talk about all the things that are going to be the same and all the things that are going to change. Is your monthly payment the same?
Yes.
Your interest rate's the same.
Yes.
But what's going to be different? Your principal and your interest amount are going to be different because you started in a different place, don't you? Instead of this number right here being 200,000, the second month, that number is going to be 199,800. Okay? So let's do month 2. Can I erase that little part down at the bottom? Okay? Let me erase this and make a note that we are doing month 2. So that when you look back over your notes, you'll know that that's the case. The exact same problem, just starting on month 2. Your principal is 199,800. Your rate is still 6%. Okay? Somebody help me with that number, please. It's 11,000 something.
988.
That's an interesting number, but to be quite honest with you, it's only interesting so that I can divide it by what? Divide by 12 to figure out how much interest I paid per month. 999. Listen, I know you're working really hard, but let's see, that's interest month 2. That's month 2 interest. I know you're working really hard, but every once in a while, just slow down and look at the relationship of numbers. Did you pay less interest month 2 than you did month 1? It's not a lot less, but the fact of the matter is it's a little bit less. If you paid less interest month 2, you paid more what? You're moving in the right direction. That's a good sign. You're not getting there in a hurry, but you're going in the right direction. 1,200 minus 999. In other words, PI minus I leaves us with 201, which is principal paid. And if we started at 199, 800 minus 201,
199,599.
199,599. And only 358 more simple payments, you will eventually reach 0 doing this. Okay? What do you think about that, Dennis? It's fantastic, isn't it? Okay? That's a tough question because of the steps. Make sure that you have it in your notes, how to do the steps. And then practice, practice, practice. I gotta be honest with you, right before the exam, take out the exam, the same questions, and practice, 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 because it's memorizing the steps. That's all this is, okay? Lisa, you can terminate that for right now.